Okay. Hey. Baby girl. Okay, Facebook. Twitter. Is there something else? No, I don't think so. Hello to anyone who is on here. How are you doing today? Don't forget to switch from pop chat to live chat. What are you doing? How did I do? What are you doing?
I'm chopping ice
You've been eating all day, silly baby.
cream. I was chopping ice cream.
Okay. Hey, Leanne, how you doing? What's up? Come here, say hi. Oh. Good down. Oh, that was loud. You gotta be nicer about your hi.
Hi.
There you go. Okay. Oh boy. Oh, she's doing fabulously. She's been eating all day. She's having another growth spurt. So I'm just waiting for Marcus to come back. He's gonna take her up front in just a minute. She has so many toys. So many toys. What, baby?
It's not a bad one. Not a no, and not him, and not they.
Really? What are you looking for? The Mickey Mouse toy?
Yes.
I have no idea where that went. No idea. Oh, so how's everybody doing? Everybody who can, interact. The honey in your hair. Oh my goodness.
Never do.
Why you want to come up? So Mia said, hello, and how are you?
Hey.
I had her come up back here with me when we got done.
Right.
You want us to come say hi?
Sure.
Leanne's on right now.
Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. Hi.
Okay. Oh,
Let's go back up front. I'm just about to stream. I got mommy after.
you can cut with mommy afterward, okay? You got honey in your hair. Honey all over.
Didn't think about it.
Hey, Sherman.
That's me now.
I know, right? Careful, careful, careful. See, that's the edge of the bed. You're going to fall off.
Yeah. What you can do?
And now you guys are seeing what normally happens before we start.
You want boxer?
Uh-oh, he's going to eat all the box here.
You want some boxer? Come on. Ow. Continue to walk.
Amazing. It is just amazing. I know she moves so quick sometimes, and it's terrifying. Actually, like when we go for walks, I have to have her in a stroller or like hold her hand, or like I really have to watch her because she is just too fast. Um, and it scares me. Fun times, fun times. Oh, what? I just love it when your computer acts all weird. Um, okay. I don't need that up anymore. Don't forget to switch from top chat to live chat because YouTube is weird. Okay, we have some housekeeping before I get started. Okay, so if any people are going to come on here and they hate women and think that women's rights are a joke, you're just a jackass and I don't have time for you. I don't understand why women having equality somehow automatically equates to if women want equality, then we have to be able to fight, like physically fight men. How does um, equality equate to physical violence? That doesn't make any kind of logical sense. It's idiotic. You're a dumbass. But right on off. Okay. Um, and any numbers? Well, we do have some people who watch who can't, interact on chat. So that's fine. That's fine. But I've lost the ability to have patience for or tolerance for incels or any idiots like that who obviously hate women. So here's what I have to say to you. Your hatred of women is not my problem. Yeah, also people with the messages, the stupidity, your problems with women is not my problem. It is your problem. It is your problem to fix or not. If you're lazy and it's too difficult for you to realize that your mother was in fact a woman. The person who gave birth to you, right? More than likely was a woman, and unless they were a trans man, right? Um, your existence, you would not exist if not for a womb, someone with a womb. Women are not your problem. You are your problem. And I am not going to do any emotional labor for you. Don't expect me to. Don't come in all gangbusters and think that I'm going to be like polite because I won't. I just won't. I'll just block and delete your ass. And there it is. Now, if you're capable of logical thought and you're capable of listening, of like sitting down, shutting up, and listening to women when we're speaking and to our perspective of life, we can like have a conversation, but I'm not going to fucking debate you. Because a lot of the time, these so called debates, it's just if your idea of equality automatically equates to a woman has to be able to physically fight you, then all that is you have put a mask on and you just want to be able to abuse women. You just want to be able to punch women. It's kind of transparent. It's very pathetic. You're stuck somewhere around the age of 9 or 10. Time to grow up. Get out of your mommy's basement. Stop huffing your mommy's exhaust fumes from her car in her garage. Grow up. So Okay, that's one thing. Another thing we will be doing another makeup for Elsa stream probably here in the next couple of days. So yesterday I was supposed to live stream last night, right? Marcus decided I needed a being spoiled day, so that's kind of that's what turned out to happen. What had happened was um, like Marcus and I went and got like frozen coffee drinks that were atrociously yummy, just like stunningly yummy, and then went and got some makeup for me. For the makeup for Elsa thing, and then they didn't have the wind palette that I wanted to get them, and God, there was food. We ate so much food yesterday. Um, and basically, it was a day of just getting spoiled, is what happened. So by the end of that, I fell asleep and I woke up at like 10:30 this morning, which I normally wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning. So yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it was. I didn't even really fully realize that I did that, but apparently I did. So just the way he did it was kind of smart too. Like no research, no, sitting out, kind of planning how I'm gonna do streams and stuff like that. It was just a day off. So that was nice. That was needed. No cleaning, no any of that. So yeah. Got a lot done though. I think that's everything. Right. Like everything I wanted to say at the start of this anyway. Yeah, it is necessary for mental health, and there's so much social media involved, and I'm not used to it. I usually just have Facebook, and I'm not even on that very often. So it's kind of um, it's a lot, but it's okay. Um, okay. All right. So yet again on this, I had tabs up on Marcus's computer for what I was going to do on this. And I try to be like 5 videos and or streams ahead, right? So, and I haven't had a day where I can just sit and get everything plotted out. Um, I'm pretty new to it as well since early summer, this November or so nonstop. Wow. Yeah, having it like I don't have the notifications on either because that would wake baby girl up. Let me see what's going on with baby girl. Not happy with something. Okay. Is she being too quiet? No, she was like upset. She might be tired. She refused to take a nap today. Like we went shopping, like grocery shopping, and she's just been eating a lot. So she's having a growth spurt. So yeah, no nap today for her. Um, okay. So there's a combination of it's raining right now outside, and I don't know what's going on, but there are all kinds of emergency vehicles going by. Um, I think that last one was a fire truck. Don't know. All righty. Today we're going to talk about poverty, and well, I'm glad y'all can't hear it because it's a lot. We're going to talk about poverty and how that affects women. And I'm going to use Flint, Michigan as an example because I grew up there. And I saw firsthand how things went, right? So during the first half of my childhood, Flint, Michigan was kind of a booming town. There were lots of really good paying jobs. And that meant that people could buy houses and cars and like a boat, whatever. And the neighborhoods were pretty nice. Even, the neighborhoods that I guess you would call more like poor, on the poor side, were still pretty nice. It was a nice city to grow up in. So my mom and I moved, we lived in the country for quite a while, and then we moved into the city. And it was interesting to watch and terrifying, actually, to watch when all the jobs started leaving, right? All the adults around me started to kind of collectively lose their fucking minds, right? Kids are being laid off. You don't know what's going to happen. You only have unemployment for a certain amount of time. All the other decent jobs had already been scooped up. So over time, there weren't any other jobs left when GM pulled out. So you had people who were terrified, right? If you've ever watched Roger and Me by Michael Moore, that's about Flint, Michigan, and I grew up there. But he's talking about, he actually rolled through my neighborhood quite a few times. And talked to people that my mother had worked with, if I'm not mistaken. So many sad and much more poverty right now. Where I'm like, yeah, the water. I could sit here all day long and talk about the water issue. When I first read that they were switching to the, oh my God, I was like, this is a bad idea. This is a really bad, this is not going to go well. Maybe, but there are some problems going on in Flint if you look at who's buying up a lot of the properties and neighborhoods. It's like banks are buying up large chunks of neighborhoods. It's really, there's just a lot going on in Flint. Okay, so I watched my neighborhood, I was on the east side of Flint, right? It was a pretty decent neighborhood, fairly diverse. Um, there wasn't that much crime over there. Yeah, it's getting worse. A lot of it is like private companies and stuff. Okay, so I saw Flint go from a nice place, and I can just take my block that I lived on. By the time I moved out of my mom's house, there were like 3 or 4 abandoned houses because you couldn't sell your house. Who's going to want to move there when there are no decent jobs around, right? You might have to travel 2 or 3 hours away to work. Why commute like that when you can just move to that other area, right? So people would just leave. you're not gonna be able to sell your house, might go at the bank, take it back if you still have a note, right? Um, that was kind of shocking to see because a lot of those houses were like old houses, um, and they were nice. It was a nice neighborhood. Um, lots of kids, usually lots of kids playing, hanging out, whatever. It went downhill fast. And when when the jobs leave and people are being, they're losing everything, right? Um, that is when people lose hope, and that is when people become desperate. When people are desperate, that's when crime shoots up because there are no decent paying jobs, right? What you gonna do to make money so you have food on the table for your children and a roof overhead, right? So there's a direct link between poverty and crime. Decent paying jobs have a definite impact on the crime rate. Um, a lot of people, this wasn't even the first time it's happened. You go where the jobs are. Yep. Yeah. Well, see, in my family, trying to remember, I think it might have been my grandfather was there for the original strikes, I think. Okay, so in Flint was one of the birth towns of the unions, and the unions led to no child labor. Factories and whatnot would have children working, losing fingers, hands, limbs, their lives. Um, that was a big thing, no child labor, right? Um, 2-day weekends, health benefits, um, no, like 12-hour shifts, mandatory kind of thing, like an 8-hour shift. So then you can actually live outside of working, you know, um, a fair wage for your time. Time is a thing you can never get back. Time is extremely valuable. Your time is really valuable. Um, so actually being paid a fair wage for your labor and your precious time is a big deal. So the unions, the early union movement was extremely dangerous. People were killed over it. Companies would hire effectively private security companies as armies to kill people. That's why there are some security companies that have reached out to me to have me work for them, and I'm like, oh, with your history, y'all tried. You're back in the day, y'all tried to kill some of my family members. You're gonna have to pay me a lot of money to work for you to make up for that. So you had families who had worked in these plants for generations, and then you had there was a large chunk of people from the South, in particular Black people from the South, who moved up. Many of whom had never had a bank account, didn't know how to cash their check. I shit you not. My mother actually, one of her coworkers opened his locker and he had a stack of his checks sitting there and he hadn't cashed them yet because he didn't know how to. So she had to like show him and she was like, it must be really bad in the South that this is how things are. Like she was just like, what the fuck? you know? It's really eye-opening to know that, and that was when I really began to learn because their children were going to my school. So I'm learning how it was a big deal for them. In one of our classes, the teacher would go over how you fill out checks, how you balance your checkbook, all the other things, and like walk you through how you open a bank account and all this and that. And one of my friends was like, we can do that and we won't get yelled at by the white people. And I was like, I will punch someone. Like, what? What is it like in the South? Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, way back in the day, my family were farmers, but they understood about banking, but that's the white side of my family, right? So it's the, the systemic poverty is the way it is for a reason. And if you're not taught how to do financing and all this and that, then how do you just leave your checks in your locker, right? Because you don't know if you can go to that bank over there, because you might have someone trying to kill you. And so the systemic racism ties in with the poverty on so many different levels, but it's also the sexism, right? So that it all connects, all that hatred connects to keep people in poverty and subjugated. So I was lucky when I went to the schools in Flint, they were really good. All right. I learned a lot of things that were actually useful, like banking. And so did all my friends. And part of the reason that my one teacher taught all of us that was because she knew that a lot of the kids in my class whose parents came from the South may not know how to do banking. So these kids could teach their parents, right? I'm not even kidding. It's she wasn't just teaching us kids, she was also like through these other, my classmates teaching their parents how to do things. And oh, it's yes, that's part of the reason I want to homeschool baby girl because I want her to know how to do banking, her and finances and things that you really need to know. They'll teach you about like trigonometry, but they won't teach you how to open a checking account, savings account, what's the difference, like all these things that are actually necessary. So, um, so yeah, the schools were really good, but then when people started to abandon their properties and not pay the property tax anymore, right? And then companies are just basically pulling out. They're gone. They're not paying those taxes either. Businesses also start closing because people can't go to that restaurant and go out to eat anymore. So they're closing. Um, there were businesses closing left and right. I'm surprised Angelo's is still around, if it is. Um, so it's like a domino effect. So then, of course, the elementary school I went to closed. Apparently, it was set on fire. Unfortunately, that was a beautiful building, and it was bulldozed. There's nothing there anymore. It was a beautiful building, gone. Um, Whittier Junior High School closed. It is a ruin. Another beautiful building, gone. Flint Central High School, last I heard, was closed. You know, and right there you have the junior high, the high school, and then the library, and then you have like the museum and the oh, what's the one building that has the Pink Floyd light show? I forget the name of it, but anyway, all that's right there. But the two schools are closed, so all the infrastructure for the city is evaporating. So even if the city does come back, how exactly um, these schools that could have been maintained? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. And it almost feels like Flint was punished for being a birthplace of unions and giving workers rights. Um, at least to a degree, it's just how it felt to me at the time, and it still does. Okay, so 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 when crime begins to flourish, whatever the black market is, that is the thing that will become the main focus, right? So during Prohibition, it was alcohol, rum running, all of that, right? Um, when I was a child, it was drugs, it was narcotics. And that had a profound effect on a lot of the kids in my neighborhood, me included. Um, There's a reason I have never tried. Well, I've tried one day, and that was for medical reasons. And that took a lot to get me to that point, a lot of pain to get me to that point. Because I saw how the absolute terror and the sorrow, it's a trauma when you lose your job and there's really nothing to replace it, and you don't know how you're going to survive and take care of your child or your children or your house or whatever. And that fear of becoming homeless when you had a good job for a period of time, like you were making decent money, right? When you have that American dream and then you have that fear of it being pulled away, it's terrifying. So I saw whole families ripped apart. You know, I would see the husband and father ripped up, you know, jacked up on some charge that really, like, you know, one guy was arrested and put away for a long time for actually a small amount of weed. And that had a profound impact on his wife and his children. And there were rumors going around that, you know, a man dies and, you know, the rumor starts going around that oh, he killed himself so his family could get the life insurance. So the mom and the kids would be okay. You know, break-ins and people being attacked and just all kinds of stuff. Crime goes through the roof when you take hope away. And it decimates whole cities. It isn't just Flint, it's a bunch of other cities as well that this happened to. So prohibitions against alcohol, drugs, sex, these are things that people, I don't necessarily think that, I don't think these prohibitions actually make sense, is what I'm saying. And they have really bad effects on whole communities. And the effect that it has on women and children is so much, is so horrible and so profound that that can affect a family for generations, right? So it's almost like, it almost kind of feels like these crimes, like marijuana, first offense, all of these, you know, whatever, misdemeanors, etc. It's all used as a cudgel to further beat down poor people. But then on top of it, if you're a poor woman and you have children, you might be very much tempted to work in the sex industry, where you're probably, like if you're working on the streets and whatnot, you're probably going to be traumatized if you haven't already been. So then you might fall into using substance abuse to kind of numb out that pain, right? And you're poor. So then if you get arrested, and it just steamrolls, it just goes on and on and on. So how do you come out of that is my question. Well, yeah. Yeah, the military recruiters used to come out to the mall where us kids would hang out. I say kids, I mean teens. Yeah, they tried to recruit. I mean, they'd really target the guys that were hanging out. But yeah, I had a couple of recruiters target me. Like, dude, I'm like 16 and I look like I'm 14. I don't think this is gonna work out well. A little bit too young, you know. But they would try anywhere young people were hanging out. That's where they would be, which is messed up for many different ways or reasons. All right, so again, we're going back to what I said the last live stream. What are our priorities? Does America want to be a country of poor people who are one paycheck away from being homeless? Because that's what it's becoming. where more and more women and men are turning to sex work, internet sex work, because the jobs that are here don't pay enough. I just saw a sign at McDonald's. They're hiring $9 an hour. Rent here is like ridiculously high. If you want like a 2-bedroom, it's like, look, rent is too high here. The utilities are too high. And then with groceries and every friggin' thing else, how exactly is $9 an hour going to cover everything you need to pay? So you almost have to have like 4 or 5 people living in one house. But then, if you want like a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, good luck finding one, because Airbnb, the people doing Airbnb, have bought up a bunch of their properties, fixed them up, and they're just renting to tourists. So there are fewer and fewer homes for people to live in. Okay, and a lot of those people who bought up the properties are actually companies, and those companies come out of California, New York, wherever, other countries. So someone please explain to me how this is sustainable. It's just the poverty is becoming more and more and more and worse and worse and worse. And then people bitch about homeless encampments of people who were housed. They had homes, but when you're working 2 or 3 jobs, all you fucking do is work, you face burning out. And it's next to impossible to keep up with it. And what happens when things get this bad? Look at LA. What happens? Crime shoots up. Well, and you're made to feel ashamed if that's what you have to do to live and make it, yeah, right? Yep. Okay, so how does all of this like affect women? I'm not going to say any names here, and I'm actually talking about this with absolute respect. And I did talk with one of the people. Okay, so this woman, I can't go into detail, but she had several children. Her and her husband both worked for GM. The husband dies. The mother's laid off. Actually, they were both laid off, but you know. Um, so at some point, your unemployment payments are going to run out, and those benefits, they're not really benefits. You paid for that. That's you getting money. You're getting a return, right, for your investment. You invested into unemployment, and you know words have power. All right, you are entitled to that money if you're laid off. So that will run out eventually, right? So then what do you do when you had children at the time when you had the children? You had the means to take care of them. It wasn't a big deal. It was just normal, right? And there was no reason for anyone to think that all the jobs were going to leave, right? So someone turns to sex work. She was very careful about it, very discreet. Of course, people will judge. And this is part of the reason I do not judge sex workers, because I don't know what that who that person might be taking care of. What reasons they may have for doing it. I do not judge for this reason. There was a period of time between her husband's death and the payout for his life insurance. And between that time, she was broke as it spoke, and she had children to take care of. I have nothing but respect for that woman, because her children were still clothed and clean and had food and a home. So this ties into the last live stream. People who judge women who are working in the sex work industry, obviously obviously have never been in a position where they had to look at their children and be like, I can pay the light bill or I can buy groceries for my children. So men want women to be attractive, but on men's terms. Men want women to be sexual with them, but on their terms. You know, why is it such a problem when women decide to monetize their sensuality and sexuality for themselves? What I don't understand. Doesn't make sense to me. It's a weird European thing that I don't get. Hey Froggy, how you doing? Makes it look like people with disabilities have every resource. Wait. Okay. I'm trying to catch up with the chat over here. And you're made to feel ashamed of it. That's what you have to do to live and make it. Yeah, right? And you shouldn't be. I had this conversation earlier with my mom on the way to the city this morning. I was exasperated about how KJ claims to be an advocate for children with disabilities. Yeah, no. Makes it look like people with disabilities have every resource and every need met. I wish that's just not true and the furthest from the truth, right? This applies to this topic because I stopped mid-sentence and said, this is why KJ does his BS because she knows truly how hard it is to go the right way about things. Same thing, people get tired of doing the right thing. They're tired of doing things the right way only to have people who are well off doing things right. So yeah, people resort to things they have to do to make it. Yeah. And that's what this woman did. And then people would, there were whispers about what she might be doing or whatever. And a couple of the kids I was in class with, this one girl, her family was very wealthy. And she was being really judgy. And I just kind of cornered her and went off on her. And I was like, basically, to paraphrase, you need to keep your fucking mouth shut and mind your damn business. Or you and me are going to have a problem. Because I could see, when she come pick her kids up, she was grieving her husband. She was grieving her family. Like the lost job. She was terrified about what was going to happen to her and her children. Like that woman had a mountain of fear on her head, right? So that's why I don't judge, I don't judge sex workers. It's not my place. I've known several women who were escorts, what have you, and it came up out of poverty because they were like, no, I'm not going to live like this. But also some of them pulled a good chunk of their family up out of poverty as well, like helped put them through college, etc. Funny thing, there are like so-called elite families in this country who are only exceedingly wealthy because they were involved in prohibition and rum running and all of that, and moonshine and transport of illicit substances, which was alcohol at that time, the Kennedys. Yeah, there were several that are now considered like American royalty. How did they get that way? They were drug dealers. That's what they were. That's just funny. They just kind of, sweep that under the rug, shush, shush, act like that didn't happen. I mean, I guess if you become wealthy enough, it doesn't matter, right? All of a sudden, it's okay. But if you're a woman who's just trying to make sure your children have home, food, utilities, clothing, and warmth in the winter, then somehow you're vilified. I don't agree with that. I don't, I understand the hardships. I raised my kids alone from third grade up after divorce. I worked 3 jobs at one point. Oh, yeah. Um, as a mom, I did my best. Many times we ate all dollar store food, but managed, man. Gotta do what you gotta do. I did not understand the sex worker point of view, however, to me, a mom is a mom. We need to do what we can to take care of our little ones. Yeah. I think where that comes from is there are some women who have no choice. They have had no education sometimes, and it's as simple as doing what you know. If you've been fucked your whole life, that's all you know, right? Well, hmm, I mean, I had some thoughts on the whole situation. I don't know anything for sure, but I have a feeling that um, sometimes when you're in a difficult position, people will take advantage. That's all I'm gonna say. And then do you know what I mean? I don't know. But what I do know is that as soon as the life insurance paid out, like her and the kids packed up and go. Like, I'm not even sure what state they moved to right after. I know eventually they ended up in California, like in like not in southern or northern. They were like midway at the midway point of California. I'm still in contact with one of the kids, um, you know, but I can't even, I can't even imagine being in that position ever, right? So, and that goes into the virgin or whore, and nuts or slut, and how women are judged. Um, a man who is sexual and has lots of sexual partners is looked at as being strong. That's a man's man, and that's the kind of man you want to be. And that's, oh, virile and wonderful and whatever. But a woman who that's her thing is a slut. But that's one hell of an abusive double standard, and that leads to a whole lot of potential for women to be just marginalized to an extreme. But then on top of that, if you are a woman of color, good lord, it just, it's like right here, and then it just goes off the deep end. It just, you know, because then you're judged so much more, and all of these tropes with color, you know, the whole color spectrum. Like if you were indigenous, the drunk Indian. I don't even like saying that word, but right. With African American women, the angry black woman, or the over sexualized, and then with Asian women, how they are fetishized. Like it just goes on and on and on. And there are all these classifications for women, none of which really apply to real women in the real world. You know what I mean? Like nobody's that one dimensional. Um, all right, so poverty. Poverty, sex work, how women are judged by law enforcement, all of these things come into play. And that is where the whole no human involved thing comes in, right? All the cards are stacked against you. You have no decent jobs in your area. If you have to be bussed out 2 or 3 hours away just to work a menial job where you're making 9 something an hour, and then bus back 2 or 3 hours. How do you have time to spend with your children? That's, just a question. Just wondering. Um, so the children suffer, the parents suffer, but then one of the parents might be in prison, right? Because they were trying to do something to elevate the living standards of their family, just like the Kennedys did. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows how the Kennedys became wealthy. Um, but that's okay, right? All right. So no human involved. Now I'm going to go off a little bit about that because that term actually came up out of Southern California when a serial killer um, was going around on a rampage, killing women. These women were, if I'm not mistaken, all of his victims were Black women. Some of them were sex workers, but many of them were thought to be sex workers. And when I looked at each individual victim, some of them didn't have any criminal record of doing any sex work and being caught for it, right? One in particular wasn't even dating anyone. She wasn't interested. She had some goals and things that she was working on to improve her life. So, but law enforcement thought because of the area, because she was poor, because she was a woman of color, automatically she was a sex worker. In their minds, they thought he was only targeting sex workers. This has happened in other places in England. I can't remember the name of that serial killer, but he was targeting women. And at first, he was targeting sex workers, but then he just switched to any woman he came across. He was very opportunist. And law enforcement there decided, well, they're in a poor area, walking around at night, ignore the fact that they could be walking home from, like, to or from work, must be a sex worker, and would call them a sex worker, even though they were not. So this is a thing that is systemic within law enforcement, and it really should be addressed because there are far-reaching ramifications. There are serial killers out there who are not just going to target sex workers. Eventually, they may decide any woman is fair game. If they can get away with it with a sex worker, maybe they can just get away with it with anyone, right? That I'm gonna have to look it up. There were so many serial killers at that time that I literally have to look it up. I think I wrote a paper on it, so I'm gonna try to see if I can find it. That would be Southern California. But I don't want to say which one exactly because there were so many that I might be confusing a couple, if that makes sense. Literally, there were like 6 or 7 serial killers at this time, like around this general area. So I'm just going to confirm it before I say. But yeah, when I was writing a paper about this particular serial killer was when the term no human involved came up. That was when I was like, wait, what? Somebody explain this to me. If you find human remains, those are human remains, and that is a human involved. How is that no human involved? Right, there were a lot, and I think I have an idea of where. Yeah, I don't want to say exactly. I need to confirm it first. There's a documentary actually. I'm gonna look up and direct y'all to. I just have to re-find it. But in that situation, it was the family and the friends and teachers and just people who knew the victims who came together and demanded action from law enforcement. It was community leaders and organizers. It was a lot of people had to come together to get something done because law enforcement was really blasé about it, and they were like, oh well, I think that a bunch of these law enforcement officers knew that there was a serial killer at work, but they viewed it as if the serial killer was cleaning up the streets. I shit you. So that's why they came up with the term no human involved. And it is really, really pathetic. And it is indicative of racism, sexism, classism, all of that merging, coming together. And there's a reason they keep saying that racism, all of it merges, it comes together because it's usually all connected. So, like hatred breeds hatred, right? So if a person already hates women, and they already hate black people, and they already hate like poor people, well, you have a shitstorm. And if you have someone going around killing women, and you're apathetic because no human involved, well then what kind of civilization is this and what are our priorities, right? Okay. And this, yet again, the reason I'm doing these particular live streams is to explain to you why in the future there are going to be videos and interviews and whatnot coming up. They're going to focus on humanizing victims and survivors, and then hopefully get people to really think, right? Words have power, how we describe people has power, and a direct effect on whole families, like a whole city, a whole culture has an effect on how people live. Hey, Gator Van. So yeah. Oh yeah. So how you doing? I'm wondering how Captain is. I haven't seen them around in a while. Hopefully they're okay. Oh, what job did you get? Another IT thing? Thing. I mean, gig. All right, it is hot in here. And I feel like I'm melting. Oh, right on. Hopefully you negotiated for more money. I mean, if they really want you back, take advantage. Same. Dude, I'm melting. It just rained a little bit, so of course it gets even hotter. You know what I mean? That's why we always, anyone who ever comes to New Orleans, okay, you want to have a fan, possibly a parasol. If you come in the summer, really good idea. You squeeze them fit. Always makes me happy to hear that. Um, okay, share there. Those pictures of the guinea pigs were just cute. Oh my goodness. It made me want an apron, and I don't have any guinea pigs. Like, I don't know. What would I wear an apron for? I don't recommend coming to NOLA in the summer. I really don't. It's just not, it's not right. Yeah, no. if you wear leather in the summer here, you might die. Like, there's every chance. Rand was, yeah, you said in the Discord, I'm like, I'm not surprised. Guinea pigs can either be really chill or really grumpy. So I get so hairy, I just got to be very honest. And here we have cookies. Well, I mean, I have a 3-year-old, so just jumping up and running off to another state is a little bit more complicated now than it was back in the day. So otherwise, I would be tempted to go to Greece or something. I don't know, just go like be a hermit on the Isle of Lesbos. And be like encouraging lesbians to just take the shit over. You know what I mean? Might as well. I mean, she might actually terrify your pets. She will definitely exhaust them. I don't know if you know how much energy a 3-year-old has. Like, I'm just saying. She's the equivalent of like, there's one of me. She's like the equivalent of 8 people sometimes. Very, very energetic. So, and lately she's been having a growth spurt. So, Lord, it's a lot of work. She's 3. She's gonna be taller than me. I'm pretty sure. She'll be tall like her dad. And you're exhausted. Okay. Remember you said that. But I mean, if we go down to Florida, we will be hijacked by my entire family on my Cherokee side. So I'm not sure if I'm ready for being squished like that just yet. It will be squished like hugs where you're squished. Shit. I wish I had like that amount of energy. I would get a lot done. That is true. If I could stay on a night schedule, I'd probably have more energy. I'm not really a day person, so. But yeah, so I'm glad to get this particular live stream like out of the way. Because after this one, um, well, um, after this one, we're going to be diving deep into some true crime, but with a goal, with a priority. I always have priorities, right? I always have, there's a point for what I'm doing. And part of the point with this channel is to teach people about domestic violence, stalkers, warning signs like ahead of time. A life goal is to somehow help people from getting into bad situations, if that's at all possible. It's not always possible, but you know, um, I'm doing a Mayday May detox and workout diet transformation with people. I don't even know what that means. I'm medically speaking, I'm not allowed to do diets, so I don't. Yeah, I do. Well, so the first part of that interview we're gonna hold on to and not publish like publicly. The second part is gonna be edited and we're gonna probably work on that tomorrow. Because I would like to have that posted here soon. Um, but um, it's a personal thing. I have to be respectful victims and their families and friends and, you know, all of the people that their life impacted, right? So I want the editing to be just really well done, respectful, thoughtful, perfectionist over here. I can't help it. Um, oh, you're right on, right. Yeah, we got some workout stuff now too. I might start doing that as well. It's a good way for me to vent when I'm talking about stressful things, which, you know, been doing this research for a reason. So, but talking about these things really does help, helps me get out some of the stress as well. And crocheting. I'm making another blanket soon tonight. Um, but yeah, it's hard when baby girl and I can't go on our walks, you know, with the plague. So yeah, so there'll be more like recorded videos coming out, interviews, etc. Um, oh yeah, lots of work, lots of work. You filled your punching bag with gravel and sand. Oh, gosh. I kind of I miss having a punching bag. Not gonna lie. I also miss just training. That has to be a thing in the future soon. I don't know. Personally, I think it is classy for a woman to have a punching bag in your backyard. But then I guess I'm weird. Like that just totally makes sense to me. Like 100 pound and 8 foot punch one radar. Yeah, I used to have a gym membership back in the day, and it just got irritating. It was like, I'm not going there for the meat market or any of that. I'm actually going for a workout. Like, oh, right, right. Well, you know, I used to do sword katas in City Park, or like fencing in the French Quarter. I mean, that was kind of fun, actually. The fencing in the French Quarter, people thought we were like doing performance art or something, and I'm like, no, no, I'm actually trying to hurt this person. Like, we have those stand-up ones you and baby girl can punch on. Right on. Yeah, we're thinking about getting one of those for the back deck, so I can teach her some self-defense tactics. But she's right about that age. And then I have to teach her not to use them on me or Marcus or her sister, or I'm gonna end up with bruises. That's what's gonna happen. That's what happened with my oldest. So you always choose these square box heavyweight gyms that look like prison or office and smoking gas. Sweat, yeah. What was it? When I was at Venice Beach, it was weird. They had that area where people like lift weights and all that stuff. And I thought that was just like in the movies, like not real. No, it was real. Like that was impressive. I was like, damn. And that's kind of what it reminded me of. Really. Right on, right on. I mean, we have that back deck. We might as well put something out there. You know what I mean? Um, although, man, when it's hot here, it's seriously hot. I don't know how that would work out back there. You know, I have to think about it. Really, what we need is a bigger place. But rents are so high right now that I don't know how that would work out unless this channel explodes and I can monetize it and then have a workroom slash gym slash crafting room. I don't know. Is the screen fuzzy still? And am I like Robot Shelly again? I'm just curious. No, you didn't distract me, Leon. Have a good night. I'm gonna probably jump off here in a minute. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. The gyms look like the gym Apollo took Rocky and Rocky 3. No BS. Right. That's kind of how I am when I work out though, like with the mission. You know what I mean? But yeah. So please like the video or the live stream while you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all the things. If you have subscribed, check and make sure you are still subscribed because YouTube is weird. And that's I don't know. And if you're not in the chat, you can always comment below the video. And I usually try to respond to everyone. I encourage conversation and, talking about things. Because if you've been through a traumatic experience, talking about it can really help quite a bit. And poverty is a traumatic experience. A lot of people don't, people who haven't been through it before don't realize how traumatic it can be, living in poverty. So, that's what we're here about. We're here to talk about things and all that good stuff. So all right. What today is Saturday? I'm losing track of my days again. This is just a thing I do. This new phone. Yes, it is Saturday. Okay. So tomorrow, I'm gonna try to live stream like twice. Because I have like more things that I need to clear up out of the way, and the live stream tomorrow should be really like interesting. I want them to be very interactive. So we're doing a makeup for Elsa tomorrow. So yeah, so everybody jump on. We'll talk about makeup, and we'll talk about things that need to be talked about. All right, y'all. Thank you for being here. I appreciate every single one of you, by the way. Really do. We're getting some really good feedback. A lot of things are like, I'm trying to work a lot of things out behind the scenes. So, we'll see. But okay. Have a good night, y'all. Bye.